Yeah, okay, I think we should start. So, yeah, really thanks for everyone joining. Just to introduce myself, my name's Thomas. I am the Senior Network Development Manager here at Container Exchange. And we have Augustina joining the webinar. She's Account Manager here at Exchange. And also a big thank you to our special guests, Aaron from Tier 1 and also Joy from TreeDoc. Super happy to have you both here. I guess we can just wait a couple more minutes for everyone just coming through into the webinar. But if anybody's in the chat right now, feel free to say hello to anybody, pop your company name, any information, any questions that you have on the webinar. Feel free to use the chat for networking and any of the good stuff. And then, yeah, I guess we can kick it off very soon. Good. Yeah, I think we can look at the agenda of the webinar just really quickly. So really what we're going to discuss today is what's going on in the current market situation. As we know, the container trading business is quite volatile right now with price fluctuations and inflation going up in the US. So maybe demand is not there. So really what we see at container exchanges happening in the market. Also looking at solutions for successful container trading. Obviously, there's many different models and different success stories, but really how to try and make smarter purchases when you're buying shipping containers. We would also get the insights and the best practices from two of our very successful partners, Tier 1 and TreeDoc. We've asked some questions. And then lastly, really just looking at how you can actually increase your profits by using container exchange. And then at the end, we can have some questions if there is any. Ken Williams, if the chat is disabled, we'll try and figure out the chat for you while we go through the webinar. I guess just to kick things off, what we wanted to look at is the price fluctuations in the US, because as we know, over the last 2 years, container prices have really fluctuated in terms of pricing. So for example, I took this example in Houston for a brand new 40 high cube. Now this brand new 40 high cube was trading averagely at $4,351 US in February 2002. However, the exact same container was trading at $4,846 US in August. Now is trading at $3,693 US. So you can clearly see the real big fluctuations in the market. And of course, this can be based on a lot of different economical factors, the pandemic, but it's still very difficult for container traders to actually make smart purchases of containers, especially when there's not much transparency in the market right now. And this graph is powered by Container Exchange with our Insights tool. And what it allows you to do is really look at the market as an overview to really make sure that you guys are actually getting the correct market data, which is fully transparent. So then you can really make smart purchases of containers. And this can have a real big impact on terms of the profitability of the containers. For example, if you're going to use the container for storage purposes, for your storage facility, if you're overpaying for the container, that's just having an impact on the return on investment of the container, because essentially the container will take longer to be repaid in terms of the monthly rentals you would acquire it for. Similarly, if you're overpaying for containers and your competition is getting cheaper containers, you're less competitive when you're trying to resell the containers. So really having this transparency to making sure you're purchasing a container at the right price is very difficult right now in the market and very difficult to navigate because of such big price fluctuations. Now, what we also find a lot of the time is that many different people can get a quotation for the same container for many different widespread prices. So, for example, they could get a quote for $5,000 from one supplier, but $3,000 from another supplier for the exact same container. So working with a lot of suppliers can also create widespread quotations. So it's very difficult to actually understand what is the correct price. Is it a true price? Are they actually owning the container and stuff like this? So, it's very difficult to actually do this, especially when you've got to run your day-to-day operations. What you can see on the next slide, really what we just look at is the East Coast prices year on year. So right now, what we see in the market is a 20 DC one tripper is down 21% year on year pricing, and so is a 40 high cube, which is around 13% down year on year. And that just goes to show, but the market is declining, but nobody really knows what's going to happen in the upcoming months, the upcoming years. Where's the price going to go in the future? So it's just quite difficult to actually understand the price fluctuation to make sure you're getting the container at the right time. Going to the West Coast is a little bit more heavy. The 21 trips are roughly year on year down 28%, and 40 high cube is down 20%. So, in both coasts, there's significant price reductions of the same container right now. One other issue that we see a lot when working with our partners at Container Exchange is that owning a lot of inventory is very risky right now, because essentially, if you look at the price fluctuation, you can buy a container in 1 week for one price, and the next week it could have lost 10% in value. So this is very difficult in terms of making these purchasing decisions and owning a lot of inventory, because you don't want to lose the value on the asset for just sitting in your yard. So, and this can be also problematic if we look at the inflation in the USA. Inflation is going up, so that can suggest retail spend is going down. So maybe there is less demand for the actual container. So then you're sitting on the stock for a lot longer as well, tying a lot of cash flow in the business. So, there's also some big benefits to having a lot of inventory as well for customer service and delivery purposes. But we also see that owning a lot of assets right now can be a little bit risky in this market that we're facing right now. Also, one other challenge that we see is finding containers in hinterland locations is quite tricky. If you look at the port locations, there obviously is a lot of boxes available. So it's quite easy to find boxes. Obviously, prices can fluctuate, but in hinterland locations, if we check Salt Lake City or Denver, ultimately there's less containers coming into these areas. So this creates less containers available to buy or wholesale prices or buy in general. And that would kind of lead buyers to go outside and find different suppliers that they've never used before. And then this can actually create a lot of risk, because if you're using suppliers that you've never used before, you really don't know if they're actually vetted, if they're trustworthy, if they're saying what they're actually saying. And this is a really big problem that we've identified in the market, and we do things to counteract this as well. But in the sense of hinterland locations, there's also a lot of profit to be made, because although there's less containers coming in, the demand is still quite high. So you can actually maybe resell a container for a higher value. And also, you have agriculture or mining in these locations where the containers are more sought after. You can see if we just go back, if you can see on our graph, you can clearly see the disparity between container availability right now in the port location. So the two big percentages, 30 and 21% being Houston and Dallas, and the other locations being quite small in terms of container availability. Yeah, and in terms of what Container Exchange does to kind of solve these issues, because I think there's many different ways to solve these issues, and we're going to speak to our guest speakers of how they would solve some of these problems in the markets. But what Container Exchange, what we offer is a live marketplace, which allows you to check real-time market prices in just a few clicks. So this is really enabling the buyers to really find vetted suppliers that they can trust and know that they've been vetted at a fair market price for that week. And this would really help them avoid this fluctuation of pricing and widespread pricing if they're having a live marketplace where they can directly negotiate with all of our suppliers on the platform on that given day. Additionally, having a live platform, what we find is it really helps you de-risk owning a lot of inventory as well, because if you can have a platform that's offering you containers that you can purchase today, you don't have to buy the container and own it as inventory. You can just execute the purchase when you actually have a demand for that container. And we find this very successful with some of our partners using this and really helping them de-risk themselves right now with all of the problems that we see in the industry right now. And also, when we talk about the hinterland locations, we allow a lot of payment. Well, we allow a lot of different ways to make the payment of the container. So essentially, you can either pay container exchange or you can pay the supplier directly. So we offer different ways of security to really get you out there to working with more suppliers, but to make sure you still feel comfortable making the purchases of the containers. But I think what we should do now is hand over to Augustina, and we can just look at some real examples and go through some questions with our two existing members. And yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Thomas, for this introduction. So maybe we can move to the next slide. I would like to welcome our first speaker. This is Aaron from Tier 1. So thank you so much, Aaron, for being here, for joining our webinar. And yeah, first of all, we would like to give you some space to maybe introduce yourself and introduce your business and your company.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. So my name is Aaron. I'm the owner of Tier 1 Equipment Sales. We're a container trading company based in the US. We've been in business for just over a year. We've been extremely successful since starting the business. Before getting into container trading, I worked in logistics for a freight brokerage called Total Quality Logistics out of Cincinnati. I spent 7 years doing that. I did a lot of work with drayage, did a lot of shipping in and out of the port. That's kind of how I transitioned into the container trading space.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. So even though you are kind of, let's say, new on the container trading, you have been working with us since last year, since August 2022. And yeah, I want to briefly introduce, let's say, your operation and exchange, and maybe we can go through some of the questions. So we're gonna focus mainly on trading and insights, but I've seen that you also work with some leasing with our one-way product. There, your headquarters, as you mentioned, in Ohio. For the trading, you have been both buying and selling, so we will also go through that. And these are some of the locations in which you had deals recently. Okay, so maybe I would like to ask you, I know also from the experience that you have with us or the other operations that you were at first mainly working with Houston and Dallas, right? For purchasing containers.
Correct.
And then we also see there some other locations. So maybe you can also explain how your business developed, let's say, since working at Exchange with these other locations.
Yeah. So basically, we kind of started out in Houston and Dallas because one of our first customers was a forwarder who worked directly with the steamship line, and they just happened to have a lot of units in Texas. And when I worked in the freight brokerage, I did a lot of business in Houston and Texas. So that's kind of why we started there. Since then, we've expanded out, basically just responding to our repeat customers' demand. So I like the exchange because you avoid a lot of risk. Every deal that you do on exchange, you're protected by the buyer protection. I have a rep that represents me and helps me select, the verified buyers that you guys have. So you know that you're in good hands. Every transaction is, I wouldn't say risk-free, but it's about as close as to risk-free as you can get. So we really enjoy working with the exchange. We've been, like you mentioned, we've been able to open up new markets and work in new territories. We're slowly expanding, with the volatility right now in the container market. We don't want to move too fast. But yeah, we're starting to get into other areas slowly, and it's going pretty smooth so far.
Okay, that's great to hear. So for the audience as well, what Aaron was mentioning, and also Thomas mentioned before, this buyer protection plan that we have is basically that you guys have the opportunity as buyers to make the payments through exchange. So basically, you will be sending the money to exchange, and we are the ones making the final payout to the sellers. So in this way, even though if you may be working with companies you haven't worked before, you have this double security. And of course, as Thomas mentioned, we are working with vetted companies. So every company joining our platform goes through this compliance process. Okay, great. So maybe we can also go through, apart from buying, you also have been selling some of your stocks on exchange, right? How does that work for you?
Yeah, actually 90% of our business is done on exchange. So 90% of the units that we sell are sold through exchange. Even companies that we know and we've worked with for a long time, we still do the deal on exchange, even if we deal with them directly. Just because it's a very valuable platform, you can track every sale on there. And it's an easy transaction. You don't have to, send wire transfers and, that sort of thing. Because, when you're dealing with international companies, especially, I feel like, especially with companies that are working with you for the first time, or companies that are new to the container trading space, I feel like there's a lot of tension there. When a company comes in, they want to buy containers from you, they pay you, and then it's that waiting period. Everybody knows that's like the most stressful time, the 3 to 4 days that you're sitting there waiting on the release. It's very crucial. So you guys completely eliminated that tension there, because it's immediate release. So, but yeah, we like selling units on there because of the easy transaction, the vetted buyers, and then the network. You guys have a very large network, even beyond the people that are on exchange. Because I did learn from my representative from exchange that not every buyer is actually on the exchange posting their selling demands. A lot of them are just sitting back in the background, or maybe they're reaching out to your rep directly, inquiring about units. And so Angelo has been able to hook me up with a lot of big buyers just through his network, which has been awesome.
That's great. Yeah, that was my next question, because I know you have been working very closely with your representative. So also for the audience, once you join exchange, you're always assigned to an account manager. So apart from, of course, you will have your user and your account to log in at any time from anywhere. You always have somebody that is, let's say, helping you out, as Aaron was saying, also bringing some opportunities and trying to match you with some other customers. So how's been your experience both with account management, but also maybe we can mention support, also for the other people joining. You always have 24-hour support. We have people sitting in all the time zones so that we make sure that everyone, especially even though our company is based in Germany, we have people sitting in America to make sure you always have somebody to reach out to if you need assistance. So I know Aaron is very active there on the different deals, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about your experience both with account management and with support team.
Yeah, I think the support is definitely there. My rep is available 24/7. I don't bother him 24/7 because he's a human being, and he doesn't want that. But if I called him at 2:00 in the morning, I know he would answer the phone if I really needed him. So I like this. The support is there. And also another thing that I like is we're a growing company. So Tier 1 is expanding very, very quickly. The demand is exploding. We are growing at a very, very rapid pace. But we don't have a lot of staff. We don't have a large staff. So sometimes I get very, very overwhelmed with everything that's going on. And sometimes a rep from the exchange will call me and point something out that maybe I missed. And I think that is really, really valuable, because the exchange watches over every single deal that you do. So maybe they might see something that you missed, and they'll call you to remind you, like, hey, this person, paid for the containers and they've been waiting for the release, for a few days and you haven't sent it. So things like that, they kind of fill in the cracks, which is nice. So the support is there even beyond my rep, but my rep does a really good job of always being available.
Okay, that's very nice feedback, and we also send some regards to Angelo, that we know he's doing a great job. So yeah, maybe thank you so much, Aaron, for your time. We really appreciate
thank you.
Your feedback, and of course, having you in exchange. I know you have been doing some great stuff there, and we hope to have you around for longer. And maybe we can jump and now have some questions and also introduce our second speaker, Joy.
Hello.
So welcome, Joy.
Hi.
Maybe, Joy, you can also briefly introduce yourself and also TreeDog as well.
So my name is Joy Officer, and we are a Wyoming, USA-based business, and we are a storage company. So we do portable storage, and then we also do sales, container sales. So we started out as a self-storage and kind of coincidentally, just accidentally became a container sales and rental company. Just trying to expand our own self-storage, and it's been working out pretty well for us going that route. And just, I think the hardest part was in the beginning was finding containers and learning how to find containers, but that's what we do.
Okay, great. I think also to introduce your, let's say, performance on the platform for the rest of the audience. So TreeDog has our trading membership. They have joined this year actually, and they are basically buying. Is this correct?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So maybe Joy, you can explain a little bit, because I've seen that you basically working with these gate buys type of operations. Also to explain a little bit to the audience. We work with let's say deliveries. So if a seller is bringing some container from some other location and it's, let's say, on transit on the way to, for example, Denver or Salt Lake City, they can have their containers delivered at their place. So maybe, Joy, you can tell us a little bit your experience. We have mentioned, for example, when Thomas was introducing some of the topics, that these inland locations sometimes a little bit hard to get stocks and also to get more partners. So maybe you can share a little bit about your experience with that.
Yeah. So before exchange, we kind of scrambled looking for containers, looking for vendors, people to buy from. We also were victims of a fraud, and we got took in for about $25,000 from people pretending to be sellers, and that hurt. And so then you guys reached out to us, and we were able to now, through you guys, find different people selling containers, different vendors, and be able to kind of see when they're coming in, what depot that they're going to, look at the prices, see if it works for us. We can get on and check the inventory and see where they're going, and make orders through you guys. And it's been a really nice, secure process. You guys have helped us out. Like, Exchange has been there every step of the way with us. We had one that didn't follow through with the containers that they were promised, and you guys gave us our money back right away. That was $20,000, like instantly you gave back to us. And like that was something pretty amazing for us. We weren't expecting to have that much just instant gratification, like and then, but so now we are able to get on there, find containers pretty much anytime we need them. They're always there, and we can see the different prices, kind of look at where we need to be. People are willing to, help you make the sell. And then just the exchange of money is very convenient as well. So it's been nice.
Perfect. Yeah, so what Joy was mentioning is our payment handling option that we have recently explained. Is basically that we can help you with the payments. So for example, you mentioned one situation in which you needed your money back because, for example, the container didn't arrive on time, or the color was not as the one expected, or something like this. So if you're making your payments through Exchange, we can help you, of course, with your refunds as well. So in this case, you as a buyer, you have this security and you can feel more confident when transacting. So that's good that you have that good experience as well. And we're happy that we're there to help you with the finances, especially, but also with the vetting process and so on. That also gives us more confidence when offering the different partners that we have there on the platform. That's great. So yeah, I think that will be it for this part of this section of questions. We are really happy to have you here. Really glad that you joined and that you share this experience with the rest of the people here. So I don't know if you wanted to add something. If not, we will hand it back to Thomas.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much as well, Aaron and Joy. Much appreciated for your insights as well. I guess what we can do is kind of just recap regarding container exchange, and really the big value proposition is container exchange really is offering a wide variety of vetted partners, exactly like Aaron alluded to in one of his answers. So it's very easy for someone to do business day in, day out with just a few clicks, and especially when you don't have a lot of resources within the business and a lot of time. Time is very important, and container exchange really saves you a lot of time to find containers or find right prices that you want to make a purchase for. Buyers get access to market prices on the current day, really giving huge insight of availability and price to really make sure that you guys are making smarter purchases and making the market a lot more transparent. We are completely neutral in the marketplace, so no negotiations will always be done between you and the supplier. But like Aaron said, container exchange offers such an easy way to actually make the purchase and allowing different payment terms. This is where we give control to the buyer as well. Additionally, easy and secure payments. I think, Joy, thank you for being very open about one of the incidents that you had. I think this is not the first time we've heard it, but container exchange really offers payment handling. And, when you're purchasing a container, there is different options to make the purchase, but one of the most popular ones in North America especially is payment handling. And this is essentially where the buyer would pay container exchange, and we would not release the money to the seller till we have picked up the containers, or a transaction fee of 1.95% that the buyer would pay. But of course, it's completely optional. But exactly like Joy said, you also get that reassurance of when you're purchasing containers, especially in hinterland locations where you're scrambling to find the containers. It's a bit more difficult to find the supply. Your current suppliers don't have them, and you have to go out to unvetted partners. It gives you an extra level of reassurance. What I would like to do now is just share my screen and kind of really give you an overview of what container exchange looks like on the inside. So hopefully everybody can see my screen right now. Good, thank you. So what you can see, this is container exchange trading marketplace. And if you wanted to purchase a container, you would simply just type in the location that you're looking to purchase a container, Chicago, for example, and it would bring up a long list of different suppliers selling containers. Really simple. And then, of course, you can do some filtering here to depend on what type of container that you would want. Everybody would want different. We have very standard, all the standard equipment, and also all the special equipment. So if we just narrowed the search down for a 40 high cube, you can then come here and do some filtering on the condition, color, anything that you wanted to. So if we just did brand new, it would narrow the search down. Of course, you can see here, there's some recommended filters you can do on the list. For example, you can filter by highest price. I'm not sure why anybody would want to do this on the marketplace, but one of the most popular ones is lowest price, and it would just filter the prices from lowest to most expensive. And then you can see a wide array of suppliers offering containers that you can negotiate with on one easy search. Like we said before, if you click into the view details section, and you can see that you get to see the seller who you're dealing with. Every single seller goes for a very standardized vetting process on Container Exchange. So they would need to pass a vetting check done by us, and then you can click start the negotiation. And of course, you can directly negotiate with them for the container. So I did $2,700 and I start the negotiation. So you can see super easily, I've just typed in a location I'm looking to make a purchase of a container. I've found the cheapest price of that time. I've gone into a negotiation where I can speak directly to the supplier in the live chat function here. So I can ask them any questions or anything that I needed to, any documents, and they would get uploaded in the documents section here. So exactly like Aaron alluded to in one of his answers before with Augustina, it's so easy to actually do the transaction. Even if you know the suppliers, it just makes sense to do it on Container Exchange, especially because of how quickly you can make the purchase. As soon as you've made the payment, you will get the release document here, which is what you go to pick the container up. Going back to the payment handling topic and the payment, obviously the most important part, or you're not going to get the container. You can see this is simply where you can choose whether you pay the supplier directly or we offer the payment handling feature, which is very, very popular. And this essentially means that you would pay Container Exchange and we would not release the money to the seller till you picked up the units, adding that extra layer of protection for you. And, you know, as simple as this, it's easy, so easy to navigate on the exchange. If I just go back here and we talk about how you can leverage the inventory that we have on Container Exchange for your business and not owning a lot of assets. Of course, once you have access to this, you can do any search anytime and execute purchases of containers when you have demand within your business. So, you know, what we like to say at Container Exchange is you can really treat these live platform as your own inventory, and when you need to make the purchase, you can then make the purchase for the container when you actually need it within your business, really taking the risk off you guys and having to own a lot of containers and really struggling with the price fluctuation and the volatility of what's going on in the market right now. And yeah, very, very easy platform, but very successful, obviously growing very much. And just to quickly go over the conditions to join Container Exchange, every single member would go on a membership fee, and it's very standard. It's a $398 a month membership fee, and this would give you access to the platform whereby you would then be able to buy and sell an unlimited amount of containers for your business. But that's just a really quick walkthrough of how you can use Container Exchange and what the Container Exchange benefits, how they can actually benefit you. I don't think we have any questions, but I just checked for questions. No, if any of the attendees have any questions, feel free to ask, or maybe we can wrap it up. I'd just like to say,
Actually, Thomas, I do have some final question for our speakers. Maybe after also showing their experience and having the demo here, you can maybe give some advice to other traders or people that are here watching. That would be nice as well. So maybe Joy, you can start maybe.
Well, most of, for us, we're a smaller business. And I think to me personally, I feel the most important part is how secure it is. We feel very confident sending our money to you guys and knowing that we're going to either get the container we asked for or get our money back. There hasn't been anything in between. It's been very straightforward. Everyone has been great to work with and walk us through the steps and explain things to us anytime we've had questions. And so, our first step was we bought one container and we were like, okay, we'll try this. And if this is another con, like another person that had contacted us, but not from Exchange, we're like, just buy one container. And if it's bad, then we know. And then we bought one, it was good. And then we did like a gate buy on like 5 or 10. And we were like, okay, hopefully this is good. And then it was wonderful. And it's just been a wonderful relationship ever since. So I feel like if people are nervous about sending their money, and, you know, obviously we're all in this to make money and be smart with our money. So that it's just been wonderful, and it's secure, and you're always notified if your container's running late or if your container is running ahead, and you always know what's going on.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's super valuable feedback also for us. Maybe going through the questions on the chat, somebody there was asking what a gate buy is. So maybe I will help there with the definition. As I was saying, we have two different types of deals in exchange. So basically you can buy a pickup deal, which means that you will go to the seller's depot or place and pick the container up there once you get the release. Or you can also use gate buy deals that are basically, let's say, deliveries. So some container is on the way and it's, for example, reaching, I don't know, Seattle, and the seller will specify an estimated time of arrival and deliver the container to your place. Okay, that's the gate buy. Okay, so thank you so much, Joy, for sharing. Maybe I will give also some time for Aaron to give some advice to other traders. I think you're muted.
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me now? So yeah, I guess my advice would be, I mean, so the exchange can be a giant, just limitless amount of opportunities to me. I think there's just so many opportunities on the exchange. It's easy to get overwhelmed. So for anyone who's going on the exchange, maybe as a business, you know, they're looking to buy and sell, make some deals, make some money on the exchange, I would recommend that you find a niche and stick to that, and, you know, build some consistency. Don't go chasing demand, because demand changes constantly, especially in the container industry. It's very volatile. So when I first started my company, I was chasing the demand everywhere. You know, there was a shortage in Charlotte, so I would go buy containers in Charlotte, and then it was Chicago, and then it was Cincinnati, then it was Dallas, and it was Houston, and then it was Kansas City. But, you know, but then, you know, a month goes by and you have all these containers all over the country and you haven't made any money and nobody's buying. So it's just super important not to try. And you will have to do it sometimes. I mean, at some point you're going to have to take a chance, but I think it's important to not try to predict too far ahead into the future, because there is a lot of change in the market on the seller side and on the buyer side. And I'll just go ahead and say, with the gate buys, I think it's also important to be careful, because the market could actually change. So if somebody were to go on exchange and order some containers on a gate buy, the market could actually change before your containers actually arrive. So anybody who's new into the industry that is going to do a gate buy based on their customers' demand, it's just really important that you set the expectations with your buyer, that the containers may not be here. You know, you give them a realistic expectation of, you know, when they're going to arrive, you know, the best that you can. Because what you don't want to do is be stuck with all those containers. You know, you don't want to order, you know, $300,000 worth of containers because, you know, your customer has demand, but then by the time they get here, your customer may not be there anymore. You know, they may have found cheaper prices. So I would be careful there with that. But yeah, I basically, you know, just try to keep things relatively small, you know, try to keep it simple, you know, to avoid any risk, because in this industry, your reputation is everything. It's a big industry. There's a lot of companies, but it's small in a sense, because if you mess up, you make a mistake, everybody in the industry is going to hear about it, and you can quickly ruin your reputation. So it's just really important that you move smart, you move strategically, and slowly.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the words on that are very insightful. Thank you very much. Just going to another question from Kyle. How is the transportation handled once a purchase is made? Most of the time you would be responsible for picking up the container. Of course, there is direct negotiations between you and the supplier. So if the supplier can offer any additional services off the platform, you can definitely use the supply services as well. But on Container Exchange, majority of the time, you would be responsible for transportation once purchasing the container, wherever the container is located. Going to Ken's question regarding tax, I think we could follow up with on an email, because tax is a little bit tricky for different regions, etc. So I wouldn't want to give a defined answer on this, but we can definitely follow up with the question on tax. And on the invoice as well, we can follow up with this. And yeah, moving cargo, moving the containers is possible on one-way leasing. We have other webinars on this in terms of how you can reposition containers globally on Container Exchange.
Perfect. So I think maybe we can end or wrap it up with one question that I also saw there in the chat box that says, this system is truly amazing. So I think you already have there some experiences from some of our current customers. We also want to invite you to join. So you already have this brief demo with Thomas, but we will be more than happy to also invite you for a, let's say, proper demo to show you all the tools and to make it personalized for their own, let's say, situation or their own business. So maybe Thomas, I think you can expand a little bit on that.
Yeah. Yeah, we can go through the just thank everyone again for joining the webinar. And yeah, I think on my side there's nothing else. I really just want to thank the guest speakers one more time.
Thank you.
Joy and Aaron, really appreciate your insights. And yeah, thank you for everybody joining. And yeah, we can end it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.